For many people who want to start learning DevOps, the DevOps look like a a big mountain that they want to climb, right? So the truth is, right? I mean, it is true. Actually, it is true because DevOps try to solve a lot of problem that the IT companies are facing, the people are facing, different teams are facing different problem, and DevOps bring in solutions for most of the problem that you and your team faces in your company, right? So, and also different people, there are a lot of hundreds of different tools that people uses in order to implement the right DevOps practices and various solutions at their companies. So when you want to start learning DevOps, it's definitely a lot of confusion that you would face, and you don't even understand what DevOps is, and which is absolutely okay, because that is expected of you. So in this video, I'm not going to talk about how to become an expert in DevOps, but rather where do you begin. And there are a bunch of things that a beginner should keep in mind. DevOps is not what you think it is. I mean, for most people who start to learn, they don't really understand DevOps or what are the problems that they try to solve. So in this video, I will talk about what should be your mindset and where you should go, and what are the things that you should keep in mind before you start learning. What are the different tools maybe, right? So I'll talk about a brief idea. Where do you begin if you are working on a different IT industry, or if you are a completely new to IT? I mean, how do you start? So in this video, let's discuss that. And as we are talking, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. I will be posting different videos to this channel continuously with different DevOps solutions, so it would be useful to you. So go ahead and subscribe and like the video if you at the end if you think it helps, right? So let us start. So I will start with 6 or 5 more important things that you need to understand, right? That would include build and run an application. I mean, there are certain practical things that you should do yourself before you start learning DevOps, right? Some basic things which is not related to DevOps, but it's all about software applications, building them, running them on a machine. So those things you should have practiced it yourself, right, before you start with DevOps. And you don't need to be an expert in any technology, but at least 1 or 2 technology you might have tried yourself to get a basic concept of running an application from a developer laptop to a machine that in your premises. How do you run it? You should have an idea. So and then you should understand the problem statement. What are the various problems that DevOps try to solve, and study the problem. That's what you should study first, not the tools. Don't try to learn the tools before you understand what DevOps is. So you should study the problem, talk to different people, understand the problem that DevOps is trying to solve. So and then focus on the solution. I mean, try to visualize what kind of solutions would solve this problem, and what every solution must have a meaningful output and achievable output. For example, a developer would need quick feedback after they change the code, or an SRE team need a proper observability of the application. So there should be an output, visualizable, measurable output for every implementation, every solution that you implement. So what kind of solution that you want to implement, try to visualize that, and then pick the tools what you want to learn, and then you start your learning, right? Do not begin with the tools, which I will talk about in more detail later, and then also become a part of community that learn together. There are a lot of communities available today. You can join those communities and then listen to the experts, try to understand what are the different updates that happens in the IT industry, that have a meaningful update about whatever is happening around you. So these are 5 most important things. So I would start from the first one, build and run an application, right? So the first point is, you must have some practical experience. When I say practical experience, I'm talking about literally you should work on a machine. You should take the code from, you can get the code of sample applications from GitHub. You can go to github.com and then search for a lot of free projects available over there. You can get the source code, and then also how you can build that source code into some executable format, and then later how you can run these executable files on a machine. So these are certain things that you should try, and the reason why you should try this is, if you don't do that before you start with DevOps, you must at least run certain applications on a Linux machine, maybe a website. Try to run a website, a web application on an AWS cloud. Create a Linux machine in the AWS cloud. Just search in Google, right? Pick any technology. It could be Java or it could be Python. Pick up any technology and search for a Java project in GitHub. You will get a lot of free projects, and then try to learn how you can build your source code of Java into some executable form, something like a jar file, or then run this application inside a computer. The computer could be your laptop, or it could be a machine in the AWS cloud or Google cloud or somewhere. You just do that first, because don't start straight into DevOps before you tried one or two applications. Maybe take a Java application and take a Python applications and do this, right? Take the source code that the developer wrote and build it into some executable form, run them on a machine, your laptop or cloud, right? Any machine. Do that first and get an idea, right? And repeat it for more than one applications. Take Java and take Python, or maybe Java and PHP, or PHP and Python. Take any combination, but literally do this. It's very, very important. And once you are comfortable with that, once you did this, right, then you should look at the problem statement. You should try to understand the problem, the actual problem that DevOps is trying to solve. There are many problems that DevOps is trying to solve. So after you did some basic testing on a sample project, then you just try to visualize what are the problems that can possibly occur in this project, right? Basically, when you run a project in your laptop, it's pretty simple, right? You take it, you build it, and you run it. It's pretty simple, but that is not the case when you run the software in a production environment. Probably you would be running the software in hundreds or thousands of machines. So in that situation, a lot of problem would occur, right? When you are managing a complicated software in a company, a lot of wide variety of problem occur, right? A developer might not get proper feedback in time, right? QA engineer or security people might take a lot of time to give proper feedback to developers. Or probably you are breaking SLA with your customer. Maybe you deployed your software to production, but your customers are experiencing some unavailability or reliability problems within your software, and they are unable, at least some of them are not able to use it properly. So a lot of problem will keep coming up, right, when a company manages a software. So understanding the problem is not something that you can do alone. You need help. If you are, especially, if you are already working in IT industry on any domain, you have an idea what are the problems that you are facing. But again, you should talk to other people as well. The people who are working in DevOps, people who are working partially on DevOps, or people who are actually experiencing a similar problem what you are facing. Talk to them and how they try to solve this problem and how they are doing things in their project. Maybe ask them these questions. How much time after developer change the code, how much time do you take to give the feedback to developers? If it is 2 minutes, they are doing a good job. Ask them how they are doing it. If they say 30 minutes, then ask them how they are doing it. If they say it's taking more than 24 hours, then they are doing something terribly wrong. So you should ask them why it is taking 24 hours. So just talk to them. Have a lot of communication, lot of questions you ask each other. Talk about the monitoring tool that they are using and how they have implemented the monitoring. What is their workflow? Compare it with yours. And even if you are a completely fresher, just talk to some people who are already working in the industry. So only through such kind of communication you actually get to know the problem. Otherwise there is no way you can learn these problems, right? So make sure that you spend enough time, talk to the right people to understand what are the various problems that they are facing. The developer problem, QA engineer problem, security people problem, a lot of people, everyone is facing certain amount of problem, and DevOps is trying to solve them all. Talk to them, and what is the most frustrating part, or what is the most repeated job that they are doing, and why they are doing it repeatedly, why they are not automating it. Just talk some blah 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 stuff and try to understand different problem that people are facing. This is very important, and this must be the first step of your DevOps learning, not the tools, right? Most of the tools solve more than one problem, right? Jenkins can be used for solving many problems that people face in the company. So if you have no idea about DevOps and you start learning Jenkins, and you most of the time you don't even need 100% of Jenkins, you need a small feature of Jenkins to solve a certain problem. So if you don't understand the problem statement, and if you try to learn a DevOps tool, at the end you are going to mess up, right? I mean, you are going to get confused, end up without having any idea what DevOps is altogether. So make sure that you spend enough time to understand the problems that the IT companies are facing and why it is very important to solve them. This is what you should learn first, right? So it should not be, question should not be why, what is DevOps? Instead, what if there was no DevOps, right? This is the question you should be asking the people. If you are not using this, what would happen? And that is when you hear the actual problem of the IT domain, different applications, right? So make sure that you do this. It's very important, right? So once you understood the problem, then just think about the ideal solution to that problem. What kind of solution would you implement if you were on their chair, right? For example, you heard about a problem that developers are getting feedback like after 24 hours after they did a code development. So developers should be getting quicker feedback than that. I mean, I would say every few minutes, every 2 minutes or every 5 minutes, your developers should get the feedback about the code change they did. Every time they make a code change, a lot of things can go wrong, a lot of new issues can get introduced, and developers should get an email saying that, hey, you changed the code right 5 minutes ago, but it seems like this part of the code had certain issues. It did not succeed the build, or it did not succeed the installation, it did not succeed the testing, it did not succeed the security scan. So whatever problem that happened after the developer made a code change, developer should get to know within few minutes, right? And if somebody is not doing that, you just figure this out. I mean, what they are doing wrong. Maybe their QA engineers are doing a lot of manual job, or their security engineers are doing a lot of scanning manually before they generate the reports and give it back to the developer. And so probably a developer would get quick feedback only if this whole process is automated, whether it is the testing of the code, or whether it is the security scanning, whether it is the software build process, creation of executables, running them in production, then running some automation testing. The whole process, if it happened in an automated way, then yes, the developer would get quick feedback, and there should not be any human involved in this process. And you should use the caching efficiently when you build your product, or when you run the application, when you compile the code, making sure that you use the caching efficiently, so that the automated process run very fast in minutes, and then developer get quick feedback. So there are certain things that you should do, and you should know the solution that you want to build before you start learning the tools that you want to use. So once you have a clarity on the solution, and the solution can be defined in short words, in a sentence you can define the solution. So in this case, this is one simple use case that I talked about, right? The solution is developer must get an email in the next 5 minutes after they finish their code change. That is the solution you should implement, and then you just think about what are the things that you need to do to get into that solution. So always focus on the solution, the output that you need, before deciding what tool you want to use. and then just figure out what are the right tools to bring in these solutions. Maybe you might want to use, most of the time you might want to use a combination of more than one tool. A combination of more than one tool may need to be used if you want to bring into a proper solution to the problem, and that is very common nowadays. So then you start learning the tools, right? And most of the time you don't need to learn 100% of one tool. You might need to learn like 30-40% of one tool, and then 60-70% of another tool. Basically you would be using more than one tool most of the time. Believe me, most of the time you would be using more than one tool to implement a proper solution to the problem. So just try to understand how we can automate the test process, how we can automate the security scanning process, how we can automate the deployment process, running the software to the machines, then creating the executable code. So find out what are the best tools that can do the job, and then try to automate it, and then figure out, if you get the output. Maybe you might not get the exact output. Don't be so much hard on yourself. You expected that developer get the feedback within 5 minutes, but it is taking more than 15 minutes for developer to get the feedback through your automated system. That is okay. Implement something, even if it is worse. Implement something that improved the value, and then you can always improve stuff later on. Don't try to be a perfectionist. Just try to build something that works for your team, and then you can always keep improving if there is a need, right? So just always focus on the solution, and you don't have to become an expert in tools. Nobody expect you to become an expert in tool. You learn Jenkins and you are an expert in Jenkins does not make any sense if you have not implemented a proper solution using Jenkins. And most of the time Jenkins alone cannot solve all the problem. It need to work with many other tools to bring in a proper solution. So make sure that you, whatever you learn the problem and solution, and implement a solution using various tools. Don't try to become an expert in a tool. That's not your objective. That's not people want. That's not companies want, right? They want an output. They want solution to the problem what they are facing. Always keep that in mind. If you don't keep that in mind, you would get lost, right? You get overwhelmed with lot of tools and lot of technologies, lot of problem solutions. You won't reach there. You won't start properly if you don't focus on the problem and solution, right? So that's another thing. And then finally let's talk about the importance of learning together, the last thing that I want to talk about. So how you will learn together and what is the significance of it. So most of the time DevOps is like you might have already understood, it's a big domain, right? A lot of domain it solves solutions in when it comes to the development side, or when it comes to the pipelines, or when it comes to the production management, managing the reliability. Whenever you implement or different domain within your organization need some kind of DevOps solutions. And for different company and different tools, technology, they all vary from technology to technology. If you are using Java, the bunch of tools that you might use for building and testing might be much different than a company who is using Golang. So these differences always be there. So you make sure that when you talk to more people about implementing the best DevOps practices, and be active in communities. There are a lot of communities. You can search for Linux communities, Linux Foundation, who conduct a lot of webinars and lot of events offline and online. And then CNCF, the Cloud Native Foundations, which is also part of Linux Foundation. Or you simply search in Google for the communities for DevOps, and communities that teaches DevOps. And there are many people who teach us DevOps free, right? I mean, just search in YouTube, search in Google for finding a lot of free webinars, a lot of free community events happens around you. Go ahead and attend them. Try to get some knowledge and listen to various people, talk to them, and just be active. And whenever you can contribute, right? Become a a speaker and then just talk about what you know, right? Share your knowledge with others. So learning with the community is much important when it comes to the domain such as DevOps, because of its complicated nature, right? So these are the 5 things that you should keep in mind when you start learning DevOps. Always problem first, solution first, and tools second, right? I mean, you got the point. And that's pretty much I wanted to talk about today. And if you think the video helped you, please like the video and also subscribe to the channel. I'm going to come up with a lot of more videos like this about various DevOps topics, right? It could be about knowledge, it could be about some practicals, it could be about some real-time scenarios, right? So keep subscribed to this channel and get regular updates. And thanks so much. So bye for now. See you next week.